the police came over to us and they said, hey, were you guys told you can't use the megaphone? We said, no. And then some guy said, no, they told them that, the other group. And the other group did. They capitulated and they dropped, I guess, stopped using the microphone.
Stopped using.
And then he said to us, well, let me check with my whatever. And they had a meeting and he came back and he says, well, I guess the ordinance says, noise for noise. If they're playing music, I guess you can. And I said, well, what happens if the music stops? How do we know? He goes, I'll tell you. And he goes, you know what? I don't even care. Use it, whatever. I don't care. And then he started talking about he doesn't agree with pride, but I stopped him before he could say it. So the other group saw us using our half-mile hailer there, and they said, they decided to use their little bullhorn, which, hey, that's fine. But, but our favor with the police got them to be able to use their bullhorn. The second thing that happened was we got a vendor to leave.
Yes, we did.
I don't recall ever.
Their only vendor.
Right.
The only vendor they had left.
Yeah, he left.
We talked him into leaving.
He came over to us in the beginning and he shook my hand and he said, listen, I'm selling shaved ice, not shaved men. And I'm like, but you're at a pride event. Like, what? He goes, I didn't know what this was. And he's like, this is not for me. And I said, I'll tell you what, we got media coming. They're going to take pictures of you. And he said to me, he's like, oh man, I want that. I said, yeah, look what happened in Bartlesville. He goes, oh, I don't want that. And I said, listen, I'll tell you what, if you leave, we'll give you the $100 back and, you can hop in at it. Look at this, I'm getting nothing. YouTube is doing something screwy to my videos. I don't know what's going on. But he left. So we told him we'd give him back the $100 permit fee, and this is where we kind of need your guys' help on this. So we want to be people of our word and help give him his money back, because he did leave. So you guys know the links, what have you. But, the other interesting thing is that I'm looking at the homos, their thread, because I always like to follow up. And what I love more than anything is, of course, Kaylee Holhauser's running her mouth. We're not with Rich, and that's fine because she's right. She has nothing to do with me. We push them away, whatever. But what's amazing to me is all the homos are talking about us. There's another group there, and thank God they were out there. They had their signs, and nothing wrong with that. And we're just thankful other Christians showed up. But the thing is it's important. Dave is real big on this issue, on tactics. And why we do, because I had a conversation with the police officer today, and the police officer acknowledged, by us being where we were, that we were not the provocateurs. By going down there and everything else and in their faces, he acknowledged, and I said, right, because we stand here, because if they come over here, you can see the danger and the threat, and it's not come from us, and he agreed. So it's important to understand why we do what we do, and the tactics we use, and things like that. And I'll let Dave talk more about stuff, because that's his thing.
Yeah, so what we did, and this is generally what we do, we try to get as close as we can, but it maintains some level of separation where they have to come to us. So, because we don't want the police to think that we're the aggressors by being in their face. But trust me, they will come to us.
And they did.
They came to us. And when they do that, if they come with an attitude, the police understand they're the aggressors and they're the bad guy, not us. Because we are trying to keep some level of separation to maintain peace.
Yeah.
Because we're not there to fight. We're there to preach. And I also picked that location because there was a tree there with shade and the wind was at our back. If you're using amplification, the other team was facing into the wind and we could not hear their amplification. We were facing downwind. When you are setting up your amplifier,
right,
try to get in a position where the wind is at your back,
because it
helps carry the sound further. If you're going against the wind, it's pushing against the sound,
and you might get feedback too.
You might get more feedback that way. So we got less feedback and more bang for the buck with the wind at our back. So I chose that location for 3 reasons. One was it was shady. 2, because it was less feedback.
Shade, good idea.
Your shade's always good in Oklahoma in the summer. and the wind was at our back, so the sound would carry it and would be less feedback. And it created a level of separation so that the police would understand if they came to us, they're the aggressors.
Right.
It makes us, because we're not trying to be too aggressive.
No, but cop also said that they were more afraid of us than the other team.
Yeah.
They did not like us at all. That's why if you go on their little thread, the homo thread, it's all about us.
Yeah, they didn't like us at all. And they generally don't. Because we know, you see, a lot of Christians will come out of their church and they'll try to go talk to the homosexuals as though they're talking to Christians in a church.
Right.
That is not the tactic to use, because these are people that don't go to church. They're people of the streets. You gotta talk their language. You know, the Apostle Paul said, I become all things to all men that I might win some.
Right.
Well, that's what he was talking about. He was talking about adopting tactics where you use the language or the euphemisms or the general types
without
of
crossing
expressions.
the line.
Yeah, without crossing the line. We don't curse. We don't blaspheme. We don't, talk sexual dirty talk. We will talk graphically, but we
without crossing the line.
Without crossing the line. But we speak in a manner that speaks to them because they're street people and we are street preachers. So we're trying to communicate with them in such a way
they can understand.
That they understand it, that they get it. Now, Jesus did this all the time. He would explain things and make analogies and things like that in ways that people understood it. He said, if I tell you, if you don't understand earthly things, how can I tell you of heavenly things? There was a certain level he couldn't speak on because they would not understand. He had to kind of downshift the way he spoke to people so they would get it, because he's trying to be a communicator. Same thing with the street preacher. The street preacher is trying to communicate a message to street people. And so you preach like a street person.
Yep.
But biblically, you throw scripture in there and you talk to them in a biblical way. But you don't talk to them like you're talking to a Sunday school class. You don't do that. And a lot of Christians make that mistake, and they think because we are more, street language, they think, oh, they're hateful, they're just awful, they're terrible. But the sinner remembers what we say.
Oh, and they remember.
They understand it and they remember it.
And we were having a conversation, David and I brought that point up. I says, people always like to brag and say we had great conversations, but the problem is, see, again, you have to understand how your enemy thinks. You have to understand what they're trying to do. You think when they come over to talk to you that they're interested in what you have to say? They're not.
Usually no.
They're there to try to get you to their side. They're only appeasing you. This is how they think. That's why they never remember your good conversations. And I know every Christian, we're planting seeds, but you can't plant a seed into a ground that hasn't been plowed yet, or else it's just going to blow away. But when we go out there, you got to remember, they remember every single thing we say, and they will talk about what we said for weeks, and that's the goal. Because maybe we're hoping that even just one, if they can look up any of the biblical references of anything we said and realize the truth, then we have done what we need to do. Not only that, but again, we have done what we need to do because we got them to manifest, really.
And today, even though we couldn't fly banners because the wind was too high, we would have been fighting it like a sail all day.
Jim tried for a minute.
And he's like, nope, not working. So, and Jim's bigger than us,
He's like 6'6" in a little bitty car.
But the thing is that also, if you get them to what you say and they take pictures of your banners, then the banner speaks for itself far beyond the preach itself. Right. It goes all over social media.
Well, they got our shirts for sure, because they're talking about our shirts.
Right. And it might carry over into regular news media also. Media was there.
Yes.
So basically, if you draw that kind of attention, then the banners and the shirts and the other messages go out further. Because half the preach is what you're doing at the moment, the other half is the after effect. You're trying to, hopefully they'll take pictures of your banners and all that, and it'll go further, go far and wide.
And we're not ones that go home and say, hey guys, good preach, and that's the end of it, right? No, because there's a lot of follow-up we got to do on this. Which I'm not going to go through the follow-up on public, because we've got some things that are going to shock the citizens of Tuttle. And we're not going to lie about things too, right? Somebody made the claim that the OKQ van hit somebody. That's not true. as much as I'd love nothing more than to show them hitting somebody and being the scumbags that they are, it didn't happen.
Yeah, we had heard that, and we were like, oh, wow, because the police came over. She was running that van back and forth in front of us, and if you watch the live videos, you can see it. And the police came over and warned her and said, you need to stop doing this because it's got the potential for running someone over with this van. Well, then she goes over and starts harassing the other group, and
Jim kind of scared away too, because she realized she wasn't going to block us with what Jim was doing.
Right, because Jim had the amplifier in his hand and kept moving back and forth. She got tired of going back and forth.
Right.
But anyway, when they got over to the other group, we had heard that she had hit somebody, and we thought, uh-oh, that's bad, But then we saw the video.
And that's not what happened.
And she didn't hit anybody.
And the guy got behind the vehicle, but then himself, in her blind spot, he moved to go there. And I get why he did it. He did it because she was trying to block his bullhorn.
Right.
Oh, no, she didn't actually, because he was there in front of the van.
He was in front of the van, and she was leaning on the horn, trying to drown him out.
And he moved behind her.
So he moved behind it, so the horn.
And she hit his. So she did tap a sign. That's true, but she didn't hit him. So
she backed up and tapped his
sign. So there is, and the thing is, we have to make sure as Christians,
the truth.
That we tell the truth. Believe me, there's nothing more I would love than to just show OKQ doing that. I would love nothing more, but that's not what happened.
You gotta be honest.
We gotta be honest in our dealings, right? I mean, and of course, it was Kaylee that put the video up there. OKQ hit a Christian because she wants the videos, right? So she went to the media and she talked all about how she was at fault for punching somebody, and the media person was like, all she had was nothing but praise for you. But then go look what she says publicly. What a hypocrite. But it doesn't matter. And that's what Ruben made a video, not made a video recently, obviously, but it came up recently, and Ruben was talking about how when we're out there preaching, other Christians would say, we're not with them. We're not with them. And Ruben's like, and that's fine, because it shows that they're being led by us. Because they're so focused on what we're doing, they're not focused on themselves. And I've got a video of them talking about us, right? Oh, these guys are hateful. One of their group was defending us, and of course other people, it's like, they're at a pride event, right? And they're down there, and they're all talking about us the way the homos are. They're at a pride event. I mean, and there's a couple people there that, have learned from street preachers, and they've learned nothing.
Well, if they're down there at the pride event and they're talking about us, they're wasting their time. They need to be focusing on the sinner.
Well, that's what Ruben was saying. Right, that's what Ruben was saying. That's why they're led by us.
Yeah, you're there for the sinner. You're not there to complain about the other Christians and what they're doing. Save that for later, after the preach.
And you'll notice, look, one guy there, my friend Jeff told me, the Calvinists, they don't like you. And I said, that's fine. I said, that's okay. I'd sit down with them, whatever. I don't have a problem with them like that. Because again, I'm not, one of the things I can't stand is when we're at a event like that, and it doesn't matter whether I agree with you or not. I'm not there to be against you. I'm there for the homos. Okay? Now, if you say something to me, then maybe I'll react to it. But I'm not there for you. You're not the subject. You're not whatever. And a lot of Christians don't understand this. And of course, they accuse us of preaching hate, whatever. But as I explained to another Christian, because he didn't understand, I said, did Jesus call names? He said, well, yeah. And then Jim said something about, oh, you should castrate yourselves. And he went, oh my God. I said, that's biblical. He said, what do you mean? I said, Galatians 5:12. Paul said, I wish those troubling you would emasculate themselves. It's literally a Bible verse. Yeah. The problem is that most Christians don't really read their Bibles. They read about the Bible. They hear sermons. Right. They hear John 3:16. They think that's it. Right. Or Matthew 7:1. And they do not judge, but they stop there.
Not.
Judge not. Right. But they stop there. So